tuned into Straight Talk Africa. We'll have more of a discussion in a moment. But first, here is Mariama Jaro. Take it away, Mariama.
Well, thank you, Shaka, and I'm glad Nulu brought up the fact that when you're young, at a certain age, 15, people come and ask you for marriage, and sometimes it is the people that you're with. I totally remember when I was 14, I had people coming in to my house asking for marriage, and I would always be grateful to my parents, to my dad especially, and my mom as well, who always said, okay, well, let's have a family meeting. Let's sit down, let's decide. Mariama, would you like to get married? And when I said no, I want to stay in school, he said, okay, end of the discussion. So this is a very good point to bring up, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it. Well, still to come, we'll reveal some of the outstanding feedback we've received from you, our audience, through social media. But now, here is our letter of the week. Yusuf Ibrahim from Nigeria writes, the fellows' impact will be felt through the opportunities they will have to practice their learned leadership and management skills, which some Africans are lacking. If these skills are properly deposited in the hearts of African youth, our emerging leaders will have different views on leadership and management. We do have the resources, but leadership to manage them is lacking.
Like Voice of America on Facebook. Follow VOA on Twitter. Join VOA on our YouTube channel. Like, follow, join VOA.
This is Straight Talk Africa on the Voice of America. Call us now with your questions and comments. The number 202-619-3111. And the U.S. country code is 1. Call direct and we'll call you right back. Remember to keep your questions brief. Now back to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much, Esther Gidhui, and welcome back to Straight Talk Africa, live from Washington. Once again, it's time to bring in my colleague and social media reporter, Mariama.
Well, thanks, Shaka. The Mandela Washington Fellowship is creating unique opportunities in Africa for fellows to utilize their new skills to lead organizations, communities, and countries. Let's remember that out of 50,000 applicants, and I'm going to repeat that, 50,000 applicants, only 500 were selected, and 3 of them, of course, with us today. President Obama is looking to double that number next year. So everyone, I would advise to get an early start on those applications, and you might become, who knows, one day, a Mandela Washington Fellow too. Well, meanwhile, here is our question of the week, which asks, with the knowledge acquired from their internship program, what impact will the Mandela Washington Fellows have upon returning to their homelands? Well, let's get right to it and begin with a comment from Aquino Musobe in Tanzania, who writes, the knowledge the returning Mandela Washington Fellows will let us dream big and move together for the future of Africa. Well, another comment comes from Muhammadina Jakana from Monrovia in Liberia, who says, the Mandela Fellows will help keep the African dreams and hope alive by strengthening the rule of law, also by creating a system of government that is inclusive and free of brutality and injustice. This system can then be passed down to the next generation. Well, Shaka, I remember President Obama telling the fellows something very similar, that it is their responsibility as well to hold their leaders accountable by actively participating in every facet of life, including, of course, strengthening the rule of law and certain institutions. They are the leaders of, they're not the leaders of tomorrow, and I have to always say that. They are the leaders of today. Shaka and the fellows.
Thank you. Chippy, how do you respond to that? How do you react to that?
Well, that's very true, that going forward from now on, our impact has to be felt, and that there has to be, it has to be that significant to our society. Because the thing is, the US government has invested so much in us. The best we can do is to transfer that investment into other people or other fellow young leaders in Africa. For example, as Mariama just said, 50,000 people applied for this program,
right,
and only 500 of us made it. In case of Malawi, 1,000 of us, and only 9 from 1,000 made it into the program, which means that essentially I'm representing 99 other young Malawian leaders.
You are 19?
Nine.
You are nine, just nine.
9 from Malawi.
Right.
Out of 1,000 applications.
Very interesting, very interesting.
Exactly. And so it means that we're representing a larger number of our other young Malawian leaders. And I'll tell you, I believe that all these people that applied for this program, I believe that they are young leaders that have achieved so much in the society. They are achievers. They have done so much for Africa. They have done so much in their various industries. Each one of them could have equally qualified for the program, but because only a few could make it. So which means that our obligation, for those of us that made it, our obligation is to make sure that we are able to transfer the skills and the knowledge that we have gotten from here to them, and so that at the end we multiply the effect of the program and whatever we have gotten from here.
Chippy, does that make you feel that you are such an extraordinarily talented young lady?
I believe I am, but at the same time I believe that all of those that applied are also extraordinarily talented people, as well as
who just
all
couldn't
those
make
that
the
are
cut.
who just couldn't make it to the program.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, Mariama, please share some more of our audience reaction.
Well, Shaka, before I move on, I just have to add that just covering the 3-day summit, for someone who lives in Washington and who is used to hearing how Africa is covered, and it's always, most of the time, just the bad side of Africa that we see on television. But when you are in that room with that many young people who are just the best, they really were. They're the best, the brightest. And as she said, I'm sure there are another 50,000 of them that are as equally as bright and as intelligent and as driven. It just warmed my heart. I mean, I could have stayed there forever looking at them, listening to their stories. It was humbling. So I have to just make sure that I say that today. Hopefully I won't cry. Anyways, we'll move on to another posting from George Desmond Iyo from Nigeria, who writes that the impact the fellows will have is neocolonialism. They will come back home and help colonize Africa for the greedy West. Well, that's an interesting point out there. And finally, Patrick Fally from South Africa says, "It is my ardent hope that our comrades will use the skills learned during their fellowship to strengthen the hopes and dreams of the young people of South Africa and Africa as a whole." Congratulations. Well, Shaka, a very interesting take earlier with the comment on neocolonialism. And as you said, when there's positive, there's also negative. And we'll definitely be interested in hearing what the fellows have to say about that. But most importantly, big congrats from the viewer in South Africa.
Interesting, Fauzia. What about that issue of neocolonialism? In fact, I had a friend of mine, a former friend of mine, a former Kenyan president, Daniel Arap Moi himself, having problems, frankly, with this type of program, wondering why America is attempting to choose leaders for Africa.
Thank you, Shaka, and it's always good this to be brought out, because I actually take it positively, and those are the things that we are supposed to battle around with. But honestly speaking, today, this time, this year 2014, if we have negative mentalities, negative thoughts, that is doing more harm than good to us. And if there is anything that this program has done to the Africans and the young Africans, is to make us more patriotic than ever, to realize our potential this time more than ever.
Now, when you say patriotic, more patriotic than ever, to be what? To be
To-
patriotic Americans or to be patriotic Kenyans and patriotic Africans?
Patriotic Kenyans, patriotic young African leaders who have nothing other than making the continent better, who are always dreaming and always at the forefront in bringing solutions to make our continent better. As far as neocolonialism is concerned, those are fears that we should shun today, because the 500 of us who are here, none can be, if I say, manipulated. Those people were full of energy. Those leaders were focused. Those leaders envisioned a disease-free Africa, an educated Africa, a politically strong and making decisions that are in the good for the common African child. So what we should do is right now is come together, collaborate, partner, work together. And unless Young African Leaders Initiative program might be putting more expectations and might be putting this impression that we are going to do miracles back home. But people should realize that we cannot do it alone. We have millions of young Africans who are out there. Without their support, we will not do it. We need their support. And for us to come out, for us to bring change, then change should start with every individual African, whether old, young, middle, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. It has to start with you. And these are the mentality that today, and that is what actually derailed so much in Africa, because we are quick in blaming, we are quick in pointing fingers, we don't take responsibility. You are part of the problem and you want to say that, oh, it's that country, it's that country. The corruption in our ministries, the bad roads, the lack of drugs in hospitals were not, and I will say, were not brought by outside people. We have our own ministries. We are sovereign countries. We manage our own affairs. So it's up to us to come and, for example, what is the strongest tool somebody who is a Kenyan has today? It's the vote. If you're eligible, you can vote good leadership. It's up to us to vote good leadership. It's up to us to vote bad leadership.
But someone might say it depends, in fact, whether that vote that you cast at the end of the day really counts.
The vote that we cast counts. And what I will not at any given time, Shaka, I'm sorry to say, will not take is that this is not going to happen and this is not going to happen. No. That negative mentality, it's high time we just get rid of it. Change can be realized. We can do it. I, you, anybody else can do it. It is changing the system. And if we don't change the system, then who else? If it's not us working towards the betterment of the African continent, then who else? So we stop blaming each other, we stop finger pointing, and we stop lamenting and playing the victim. That you are handicapped, you can't do anything. That you know there is corruption, so you cannot do anything. So at the end of the day, the citizens are mute spectators, and you normalize the bad governance that is happening. You normalize the bad attitudes that we have. No, unless we have a positive attitude, then I think even the Mandela Washington dream of bringing change is going to be really hard.
Fauzia, I hope you have converted a lot of people that the glass, in fact, is half full rather than being half empty. Well, thanks, Mariama, for bringing us this week's audience reaction.
Well, a totally positive attitude, and I will vote for that. Let's give Yali a chance. Let's give Chance a chance, and we'll find out in a year or two what comes out of it. Well, that does it for our social media segment. Thanks to our guests for responding to our audience, and we hope you've thoroughly enjoyed your experience in the United States. It's definitely a fantastic opportunity, and we hope it serves you and all the fellows well. Well, a reminder that we appreciate all the feedback, whether it's in social media form or using other means to communicate to us. Please keep them coming. And if you are a new fan, just drop us a line at africatv@voanews.com. Once again, our email address is africatv@voanews.com. Or post your comment on our Facebook page. Just enter the keywords Straight Talk Africa. Be sure to visit us online at voaafrica.com, or you can simply join our YouTube channel. Just subscribe to VOA TV to Africa. Well, now let's take a look at what's on tap for next week's program.